everyone. On behalf of Pur-Logic Solutions, I would like to welcome everyone who was able to join us for today's webinar showcasing Cloud at Work as part of our ongoing Get More from Your Sage 300 software series. A big welcome to Tyler from Cloud at Work. And just a quick note that we are recording today's webinar, and we will send the recording in a follow-up email after the event. We will also be posting it on our YouTube channel and on our website. Following the webinar, we'll make some time for some Q&A, so feel free to enter any questions that you have in the Q&A chat box below, and I'll send it over now to Tyler.
Thanks so much, Angela. Really appreciate it, and thank you all for your time this afternoon to talk about this topic that I've dedicated my career to. So what I thought we would talk about a little bit is the cloud and what's happening as far as 2022 and really the state of the market. And then at the end, I thought we could get into a little bit of who Cloud at Work is and what we're doing to solve some of the challenges that companies are facing today. So really quick, my name's Tyler Bauer. I'm the Director of Cloud and Hosting Services at Cloud at Work. I actually helped start the company from day one. And my background is in cloud computing and infrastructure as a service. I actually started a few other companies before Cloud at Work, and really that's all culminated up to kind of really what we're out to accomplish in our mission, and that's to create the absolute best experience for Sage end users and Sage partners in the cloud. So let's talk a little bit about the market. So the market today is kind of convoluting into one kind of massive storm, in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of things, and these things aren't new things, but at the rate at which they're happening, and as well for all of them to be happening at this increased rate at the same time is new. And I don't want this to be a doom and gloom type of presentation. I'm certainly not looking to scare anyone, but it is important to understand what's out there. And as well, if this is something that's concerning to you or you're looking to evaluate, right, these will give you some different ways to think about them for your specific business. The good thing is that from a cloud perspective, for all these different challenges, the cloud really positions you for success to really mitigate these risks. The first one that I want to talk about is supply chain. So many of you, I'm sure, are aware of supply chain and different facets of your business and how that's been impacted, whether that's, not being able to get the toy that we want for our kids at Christmas, or maybe a certain aspect within our product that we're manufacturing or distributing or producing is on back order and things are just taking longer. Well, no different there's nothing different happening in the IT industry. Hardware is a big challenge for organizations, and a lot of people really haven't evaluated their physical hardware in maybe a few years. Well, what's happening now is that companies like Cloud at Work, and we spend millions and millions of dollars on hardware every single year. Our lead times that we have to juggle our supply chain struggles with is about 6 to 8 months. For an average company, it's probably going to be pushing a year, maybe even more for certain components. So what that means is you need to either plan for that and solve for that in ways of ordering proactively, maybe creating redundancy that you haven't had before, maybe creating additional stock in case of a break fix or in case of some sort of failure. The days of being able to buy hardware and not think about it from a purchasing standpoint for 5 years is gone. And we're going to talk about some of the other kind of impounding pressures that are happening in the market. But the reason why the set it and forget it is gone is because if you have to react to a break fix, let's say of a network switch or a break fix of a server, and you only have one of them, gone are the days where you can rush order something in a few days to be delivered. If you have single points of failure, that can mean massive amounts of outage time allotted, and as well could mean a snap knee-jerk reaction to migrate to the cloud, which is never ideal for anyone. And as well, I don't feel like this is going to get better in the near term, meaning within the first couple quarters of Q2 or 3 quarters, maybe even not at all in Q2, or I'm sorry, in 2022. But I think it's going to get worse and more widespread across other aspects of the industry before it gets any better. Now, what the cloud does and what cloud providers can give to customers who are fearful of this is really a scalable version of their infrastructure. So Cloud at Work, for instance, we focus on just delivering high availability and virtual servers in our data centers. So we're constantly refreshing and constantly investing into the latest and greatest. So you can tap into a piece of that. While when you're building locally, maybe you're okay with taking certain risks within your build, and this supply chain challenge is really going to impact those decisions going forward. The second is, and I'm sure all of us have felt this as well, is the office is almost gone. So with the pandemic, that hopefully we're towards the tail end of feeling that in our personal and professional lives so extremely, has changed really the way that we collaborate, the way that we work. It's changed the culture in our office. It's changed, the water cooler conversation. And as well, it's changed how we really view technology and how we rely on it so heavily to keep maybe certain strands of those things. So when we think about systems in our office and we think about how people interacted with them 5 years ago versus today, I'm sure most of you would agree with me that most would go into an office and connect to a local network and access their applications or access their files. Maybe certain folks had abilities to connect in remotely and work from wherever they needed to be. But those present certain challenges, both from a performance standpoint, a security standpoint, and an overall workability standpoint. What's the experience like? So on a dime, companies have been faced with, how do we create collaboration and productivity by working from home? And we've basically said, okay, well, we have this on-premise data center. How can we add some remote connectivity tools to it to allow access in? But what we didn't realize was, on a dime, now everyone, where we had maybe 1 or 2 people connecting in remotely, now everyone is connecting in remotely and nobody is on the local area network. Well, this puts pressures on your system to perform correctly around internet connectivity, around overall redundancy, and just the overall workload that we're putting through the system, and whether it's designed for optimal performance over a WAN. The other piece is the pressures of the newer generation of folks that we're looking to recruit and we're looking to attract. They have an instant gratification. Technology isn't slowing down. We're not looking to stay status quo with how we interact with technology and how we move our business forward. I think everyone can agree that technology has changed how we do business for the good and has made it easier, better, faster, stronger. Well, that urge, that natural desire of how can I do more with less, how can I do it faster, is going to continue. And one cool stat that I found was, right now, about the average person interacts with smart devices in a data center at about 1,200 to 1,500 times per day. And that's both personal and business. By 2025, IDC has said that the average person will connect about 4,800 times. Now that's triple, a little bit more than triple what we're doing today. And I don't know about you, but today, I find myself scrolling. And if you think about really where we're at as a culture, where we're at as a human race, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, we were watching 30-minute YouTube clips. Now we've condensed all of that into a 30-second TikTok, right? And that's what's grabbing our attention. The same holds true in how we interact and use tech in business. The demand is going to continue to grow. Some new things that are coming that I feel are going to help with collaboration and help with overall office experience and culture is really VR and tech interaction and kind of this metaverse real estate collaboration space that's being created. And this is going to put different types of pressures around how can we have employees use this technology to immerse themselves more into our culture, but do it safely, do it securely, and do it productively. So these back-end office systems sometimes are a bottleneck or a choke point for us to do that in those manners. The third, which I feel is the most important and probably everyone is the most aware of, but maybe not to the extent of what it actually is cybersecurity. Everybody by this point has heard of cybersecurity, maybe felt it through a ransomware attack, or maybe knows someone who's been in a ransomware attack. But the past 3 to 4 years, cybersecurity attacks have been compounding and increasing at an alarming rate, and that is not slowing down. The pandemic really gave us, or gave them, I should say, a new way to kind of go fishing. No longer could, the office secretary get up and go and check and have the IT guy come over to look at the email. Right now, the office secretary is in her house and the IT guy is in his house or her house. And it creates this disconnection. And if we don't have our collaboration tools and we don't have ways to remotely securely connect, it can be an in for these folks. And we've seen ransomware attacks as well as cybersecurity attacks and different types of variants of that increase very, very much in 2021. One interesting thing, though, and maybe some of you are subscribed to this, is cyber insurance. So I became aware of cyber insurance probably about 6 or 7 years ago. It was certainly an interesting topic for someone like myself running a cloud business, but for most businesses who weren't in the enterprise, it really wasn't a thought, maybe even kind of a gimmick or a joke. Man, they make insurance for everything. But very quickly, I feel like this is a very much widely adopted part of our insurance portfolios, and rightfully so, right? Cyber attacks and ransomware attacks cost us hundreds, if not millions of dollars. One interesting thing that's happening in that industry right now is before you could go and get a premium, go get a quote for a premium from multiple companies. And really, you didn't need to have a cybersecurity plan or different types of things in place in order to either get a better rate or in order to even secure the insurance. Well, now cyber insurance companies are actually requiring companies, if they want to renew their policy, they need to show proof of dual factor authentication if you're remoting into a server. You need to show that you have a security plan and that it's being followed. Now, while this hasn't escalated to actual audits just yet, I feel like it's getting fairly close to it, where things like SOC and things like ISO are going to become more prevalent in just everyday business in order to secure these services like cyber insurance. One thing that's happened this year is we've seen a 26% increase in cybersecurity or cyber insurance premiums. And that's because so many companies used them last year. And I think this is the way to kind of curtail that increase, because they're already very expensive. One interesting stat as well is that the average ransomware transactions, the amount of ransomware attacks that happen per month and what that costs business, is about $102 million in 2021. There were 68 different variants of ransomware, and no longer are they just the email from the Prince of Persia saying you won the lottery, right? These are very, very sophisticated attacks. Also, they've changed. They're not necessarily just these blanket emails saying, click on this link and we're going to encrypt all of your data and then ask for Bitcoin. Yes, those still exist, but we started to see very much more strategic attacks into the mid-market at SMB, which we call spear phishing, where they're actually targeting companies going in and living in the environment, not necessarily encrypting anything or doing anything. They're kind of just watching and waiting. So that way they can spread to maybe some of your customers, some of your vendors, and really just kind of in a sophisticated way, infiltrate kind of your connection or your network of folks. And in 2021, there was over 140 million attacks or attempts. It's astonishing. But this has become a very, very big point of concern for many, many organizations, both large and small, and no longer can we ignore it. The fourth point is inflation. Now, many of you are aware of inflation. Maybe you've been to the gas pump lately and seen those increased prices. Certainly, nobody enjoys a $100 plus gas refill, but eventually that will come down. Inflation happens and prices fluctuate. A gallon of gas or a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk. Things can go up and those things can go down. In technology, they never go down. In technology, when we have these types of rates of increase in both primary and secondary markets, once they realize that demand exists and that people can pay that freight, if you will, the only thing that will slow down is the rate of increase. The price will never come back. So this is concerning because if we own our own technology internally, it's becoming harder to get it, right? We have to wait minimum 6 to 8 months, could be over a year. This causes challenge with break fix or planning for the worst. Technology and the usage of technology is compounding and changing. So no longer can I just buy something and expect it to last 5 years. At this rate, I probably may need to reinvest into new foundational technology to allow my company to grow and collaborate in its culture. Then the third thing is security, right? It's becoming more and more dangerous to really live and breathe in this Internet of a Thing world. And so I need to be careful and I need to be protected and make sure we're there. And then on top of that, it's all becoming more expensive. This is really driving people to think about change and how can I limit my risk while at the same time hedge myself from future price point increases or future break fix spends or possible security breaches that could cost me possibly more than dollars could buy back. And the fifth, which I feel is the most important, is the workforce and people and retention. A lot of companies saw a very hurtful time in their business during the pandemic. We saw a lot of creativity. We saw a lot of gumption, of real motivation to change and to get better. And other companies, we saw rapid growth. Both come with it that set of challenges when it comes to really bringing in and retaining the right people. I apologize, my motion sensor went off. When we think about people, really our company is either a runway that is taking off, planes are leaving, or they're coming. And quickly, companies are realizing that the culture, the technology experience or the user experience, and the overall adoption or want or need to improve culture and to improve technology so I can work better, faster, stronger, is becoming a really key sticking point for retention of employees and attraction of employees. New employees coming into the workforce, they're not going to come into an office, most of them. Some are even demanding work from home. They exclusively look for work from home. They have health concerns and certainly want to look at benefits and so forth. But mainly companies are getting younger. And with companies getting younger and with the newer generation coming in, if you think that the compounding rate of using new technology, the latest and greatest thing, is tough enough, now you have this generation who is extremely cognizant of whether or not there's an easier way to do something, which is good for our business. But a lot of times that can cause an investment needed. And so technology and the foundational principles of technology, we need to be able to build, change, adapt, be liquid in our overall mindset of how our organization uses it. And this will lead to culture retention and as well people retention and acquisition for people. This is an attracting thing of how your users are working seamlessly from home, working very productively. They're secure. We're not having any type of disruptions, and people can do their jobs and do it very, very well. So with all of that, I thought I could take a little bit of a time to tell you about Cloud at Work. And really at Cloud at Work, we're aware of the market, we're aware of what's happening, and we feel that we're very much built for success when it comes to our customers' cloud and data center needs. So we were founded in 2017, and the reason we started the company was we saw that in the marketplace, there was a ton of enterprise managed service companies, a ton of infrastructure as a service companies, and then a ton of companies who were reselling or selling AWS and Azure. And what we saw was this is an application-driven world. If we look internally at ourselves, we know what runs our business, and that's our ERP, right? That is the heart, the lifeblood of who we are. And these companies didn't understand that. They understood how to keep infrastructure greenlit, but quickly that was becoming a commodity. Flip that on its head. There was a lot of companies who were focused on Sage hosting, right? I can name countless few. But when I did my research on the market, I realized that they were very much driven by how can I deliver the cheapest solution, the least expensive solution to the market without educating them on what they're actually buying. There's this notion that Cloud at Work and other cloud providers are continuously trying to solve for from an education perspective, and there's no good or bad cloud provider, but there are different cloud providers, and no cloud provider is created equal. And it's important to understand those risk points, and it's important to understand kind of the old bell curve, the supply and demand bell curve, but instead of supply and demand, you insert risk and cost. And the more risk that you're willing to push out into the market and you want to get away from your business, the more money you'll spend. The more that you're willing to take on, the less money you'll spend and the more risk you'll have. So it's very simple when we think about it, but these organizations weren't educating their customers. And unfortunately, what happened was everything was good until it wasn't. And then there was major outages at the year ends for multiple weeks and ransomware attacks and all different types of bad things. So quickly we knew we were onto something. We knew that we wanted to create an organization that was focused on enterprise principles around security, availability, and redundancy, bring to the SMB and the mid-market an enterprise cloud capability, but extremely focused towards Sage. And this took off like a rocket ship. We quickly became very, very relevant in the space, so much so that Sage has awarded Cloud at Work as the only accredited hosting provider in North America and Canada for 100, 300, NX3. And we're extremely proud of that. Today, we have about 400 plus customers, and we're working with about 50 or so partners and helping really deliver that mission statement, which is how can we create the absolute best experience in the cloud using security, availability, redundancy for end users, and do it cohesively with our partners. And that kind of brings me into what makes us different. So we talked about traditional Sage solutions. If you're a Sage customer and you're looking to go to the cloud, this may be something that you look into. And you're not wrong for thinking this way. But I just want to give you a different way to think about it. If I said the word cloud to you, most of you would say, without a doubt, Azure or AWS. And the reason for that is because they're the largest cloud providers in the world, and they are fantastic. I'm not here to say that they're not doing the right things in the ecosystem. For sure, they have very, very capable products, and their solution is mind-boggling at times, both in a good and bad way. But when we're talking about Sage and we're talking about applications, it's really important when we're talking about a user experience to limit as many people as involved as possible. because what we know is that with each layer, we've played whisper down the lane before, with each layer can create confusion, can create a different narrative, or can create finger pointing and people not wanting to play the game. So in this scenario, in a traditional solution, you would have AWS or Azure, but AWS and Azure aren't in the management business. They're not in the people business. So you would need to employ a management company, whether that's your own internal team or you look for a managed service provider to help you manage that. Then you would have your publisher. So that would be Sage and their manufacturing software tools that you're consuming. But one of the things that makes Sage so fantastic is they kind of allow us to create our own application experience. So most companies that I talk to aren't just using Sage, they're using SEI, or they're using DocLink, or they're using Sage CRM. They're using all these different components to deliver that common thread solution. And then you have your business partner, whose job is to bring all those solutions together for you into your business process. Your business partner understands your business and can apply those application principles to you making money or saving money. And then you have yourself, the client. So in this scenario, everything looks like we've checked every box. It looks like we have a solution that we can go to market with or begin using. But in real time, we know that our end users, our customers, maybe even ourselves are going to have a question. We're going to say, something's not working right. Now you, the client, have to decide whether this is a Sage problem and call your business partner, or if this is a cloud problem. And depending on that decision will lead to a various amount of different experiences, nothing consistent. Because if you call your cloud management company, remember, they don't know Sage. So if they don't know Sage, they're going to come back to you and they're going to say, I think you need to call your business partner. And your business partner is going to, maybe have some knowledge of infrastructure or capability, but certainly not have access to your Amazon deployment. So they're going to say, hey, we're going to need to get on the horn with your MSP. I think this has something to do with that. And while everybody's being cordial, everybody's being nice, you're stuck in the middle coordinating all of this. And meanwhile, you still have a problem. At Cloud at Work, we create simplistic and predictable user experiences and partner experiences. Cloud at Work, we understand Sage. We don't support Sage. We don't have consultants or anything like that, but we understand how it needs to be provisioned. We understand all the third parties. We have relationships with all the vendors. And as well, we understand when you talk that language to us about what you're using and what you're doing, we know whether it is an application issue or if it's an infrastructure issue. And we work with your partner to solve your problem. So we're never going to throw it over the bow to you to figure out or for you to really coordinate. We're going to work with the business partner in order to solve the issue better, faster, stronger. Now that's what makes us different. And this is what makes us relevant. So when I talk about differentiation and why we created it, the experience for sure is what makes us different. But I mentioned that we wanted to bring enterprise cloud capability combined with that. And this is enterprise cloud. So every single deployment at Cloud at Work, we deploy virtual private clouds. Now, what that means is we're essentially carving out your own dedicated virtual infrastructure. There is no sharing whatsoever between you and another customer. There's no common thread management system. There's nothing tying you from one customer to the next. You even have your own virtual private firewall. Now, because of that type of redundancy, we're able to give you 4 nines uptime guarantee. Now, what that equates to is essentially 52 minutes of unscheduled downtime. So when you think about your business and really having a guarantee from a foundational principle, not only do you have a guarantee around break fix or around downtime, but you also have a guarantee around scalability and growth. Now, Cloud at Work, since inception from 2017 until this day, we've trended at 6 nines. So sub 31 seconds of downtime per year. That's something I'm extremely proud of. and really is a token to all of the Cloud at Work employees and how much they care about that user experience and about really their reputation in the space. Another thing that you'll find, and a common theme that you'll find with Cloud at Work, is we don't cut corners. We take the extra step. That starts with our data centers. So our two primary data centers are both Tier 4 facilities, the highest classification of data center that you can get in the space. And believe me, these are redundant facilities. Very, very impressive. If you've ever seen James Bond and eye scanners and all those things, they exist. They're in these buildings. What they really give us is the foundation of the foundation. So if you think about building a house and you want, a concrete foundation, obviously you don't want to build it on sand. These facilities give redundancies from dual different power grids. They give generator backups for 3+ months on site. So those things that we typically wouldn't invest into our office, we now get to take advantage of by carving out our little virtual private slice within Cloud at Work. Obviously, everything is 24/7 by 365, supported and monitored by us. And we custom build specific to your business. I've talked to countless customers and they've said, well, Tyler, look, this is all great, but I have customizations, or I want to, actually look for a company that can do more than just Sage. I want to look for bringing my whole infrastructure over. I have this third party that nobody can host. We can. Everything that we do, we custom build specific to your business today, and we can change that and grow that for your business in the future based on your vision. We're the executors of your vision. You decide what you want, and we can make that a reality. All with all of these redundancies, securities, and availabilities on the back end. One thing I'm extremely proud of is our redundancy. So every single customer in our data center has production data that resides on very, very high performing SSD disk. And every customer, we take a snapshot or a picture of their environment every hour, and we keep that for 48 hours. Now that's great by itself, but the other key point that we want to remember is that whether it's stored on the same network or not, remember if someone clicked on a link that they shouldn't have and your production network is impacted, that backup being on your production network doesn't do you any good, right? That's encrypted along with it. So that snapshot is actually on a separate network, and we keep them every hour for 48 hours. Then you have your daily backups, and we take those every day and we keep those for 30 days. Now, not only do we keep those on a separate network, but we keep them in a separate data center. So if you're in Philadelphia, you have your production data, you have snapshot data for 48 hours, and then you have 30 days of daily backup data in Dallas. So you have geo redundancy built in for your business. Now we have that integrated cloud and Sage customer experience, no application limitations. And for things like dual factor authentication, if you need disaster recovery, we can actually layer on a fourth object there for you for a true customized DR strategy with a 4-hour recovery time objective, 1-hour recovery point objective. Cloud at Work, all the licensing is going to be available for you, everything that you need to run your business. And we're going to make sure that that's done securely and done the right way. And that's what we're all about. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Angela and ask if there's any questions that I can help.
Okay, awesome, Tyler. Thanks so much. We do actually have one question already. The question is, if we have our own Microsoft license for Outlook, Word, Excel, etc., can we use it on the hosted server?
Yeah, great question. So Microsoft has certain rules. SQL, if you own SQL licensing and you have what they call basically their maintenance, and you've stayed current on their maintenance, app assurance, I think it's called, or something, you can bring that over. But unfortunately, Microsoft Office applications need to be Cloud at Work owned applications. So you cannot bring over Office applications. However, if you're using Office 365, we typically would just install a copy of Microsoft Excel. So it's super inexpensive for you. And you can continue to use Office 365 just how you are today. So it really depends on what you're using and what versions you're using. And we certainly have a solution that certainly isn't going to break the bank.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Don't see any more questions in the question box. So I want to say a big thank you to Tyler and to everyone for attending today. Please feel free to reach out to us with any more questions, or if you would like to book a more in-depth discussion. Again, you will be receiving a copy of the recording shortly after this webinar. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you so much.